We are joined by Dr. Sunita Gandhi, founder and CEO, Devi Sansthan, founder of Council for Global Education USA, and Chief Academic Advisor to City Montessori School, Lucknow. We welcome you, ma'am. Can you come on stage, please? She's part of the inaugural session. A huge round of applause for her. So till now, we had a perspective of higher education. Let's have a skill perspective and from a state point of view. For that, we have with us Amrit Singh, IAS Director, Department of Higher Education, Employment Generation, Skill Development from Government of Punjab. We welcome you, ma'am. Over to you. Huge round of applause for her.
Good morning, everyone. I would like to take apologies for my my bad throat. It's an irony that I'm here to speak, but I'm having a little trouble doing so. I would like to, at the outset, welcome Minister Saab. Thank you so much, all the dignitaries on the stage, this August gathering, and the organizers of this event for organizing this extremely important topic of discussion. And I would like to thank the previous speaker for almost covering 60% of what I had to share with you. And I think that'll help me confine myself to the 10-minute time limit. However, while discussing higher education and skill, I am Director Higher Education, Government of Punjab, and I'm also holding the charge of Director Employment Generation and Skill Training, Government of Punjab. So I have a view from both sides. And before I proceed into discussing the role of technology, the role of government in the higher education ecosystem of the country today, let's go back a little to the roots of higher education, which is actually school education. And while discussing school education, I think we should go down to the very beginning of education, which is kindergarten. I had actually come across this video online a few days back, which was about kindergarten. And what it said was that, do we really know the meaning of the word kindergarten? How we put our children into schools is basically make them sit in groups of some 20, 30 children, listening to a teacher, and that teacher sort of educating them about ABC and 1, 2, 3 and those kind of things. And whereas actually the meaning of the word kindergarten is kinder meaning small kids, and garden means an actual garden of learning, which means that what actually students need to, or children need to be offered from all of us, while we're all part of this education system, is actually to put them to a very creative sort of actual maybe garden, in which there are many activities to do which they'll figure out themselves. And they will be able to exercise the left part of their brain. What we do in classrooms is actually exercise the right part of our brain. And they understand things like, cognitive, logical learning of ABCs and 1, 2, 3s. But what they don't understand is actually the actual sharing and caring. We keep telling them, sharing and caring is, please do sharing and caring. But they understand that when there is a common resource, even mitti on the ground, and they have to maybe do something with it, and there's another child, and they have to share. So that's an actual sort of sharing and caring. And maybe things like conflict resolution, 2 children want the same thing, and, those kind of things. So those are the skills that they learn if you actually put them through a system of education, which actually requires both kinds of exercise of brain, the left side of the brain and the right side of the brain. Otherwise, the way we've traditionally approached education, and now I'll just extrapolate it to all of education, school education and all, and higher education as well, it is basically, we're putting our children in the driver's seat when they've not really grown their legs that far to reach the brakes and the accelerator. So we need to approach the problem in that kind of a holistic way. Now that I've given this example, let's actually come down to some concrete, what could the government do in promoting technology, in promoting skills in the education space of the country. So the role of the government in higher education, as I see it, is largely 4-pronged. It's got these 4 major roles to play. The first is, of course, developing technology that needs to be incorporated into the higher education system, and why the government needs to do it and not just the private sector is simply because of the scale, the problem of accessibility, and the quality of education that needs to reach the last mile. So, just because it's such a huge population of the country, as the previous speaker was already speaking about, and he mentioned, half the population of the country just in the bracket of about 18 to 25. But we're talking about all the people that need to be educated even beyond 25, before 18 as well. So it's a huge chunk of the population that needs to be catered, and that cannot be done without the government. And then government therefore does realize and must focus on this extremely key area of development for the country. Government is already doing it, as was discussed earlier, through through the new education policy, through launching portals like Swayam, Diksha. All of that was already spoken about. By organizing MOOCs, the massive open online courses, kind of incorporating digitalized learning, using virtual reality, augmented reality, enhanced reality kind of tools into the higher education system, even the school education system. And that's what we need to further build upon by collaborating with the private sector, who has sort of the creative thinking and the resources to technically, formulate these things, but the government needs to support it. And then comes, of course, once this technology is developed, if it does not reach every single person who needs to be benefited from it, it's of no use. So suppose I take the case of Punjab. We all know about aspirational districts. Aspirational districts is basically another name for backward districts in the country. And I happen to be the deputy commissioner of one of them in my previous postings. And so I was DC Firozpur. Firozpur is this district which is actually at the very, I would say, border of Pakistan, and one of the most backward areas in Punjab. So, districts like that, unless and until you reach the girls and the boys of these places to the very last mile, this technology development alone is not going to help anybody. So that is something which, again, the government, private sector cannot do on its own. And there needs to be a very deep sort of supportive understanding between government and the private sector for this. The third point is that of capacity building. If we change the entire sort of methodology of teaching students and reaching out to them, how do we do it? The most important tool to do so is actually the teachers involved. So also, as was mentioned in the previous session, how the previous speaker mentioned it, digitalization of education does not mean that you are replacing educators with technology. It's still going to be an aid, it's still going to be a tool, but we really need to think about how to augment the capacities of the entire generation of teachers that we have and the generation of teachers to come. So they're not redundant, they're going to be extremely relevant, and we need to focus on them as well. Then, of course, comes, if we are talking so much about giving access to children, we're talking about children, to the online world, then we as government need to very, very responsibly think about regulation, because it already exists in the form of, say, a COPPA, which is a Children Online Privacy Protection Act in the US. So our intention may be very well of sort of exposing our children to the world, but we do need to understand that that comes with its own challenges, and there are things that the government needs to realize it has to filter, because we're talking about young minds. So these are the 4 aspects of what the government must do in the higher education. When it comes to skilling is something that the entire country really needs to take note of, because I speak to educators all the time, I speak to universities all the time, I speak to people in the skilling system all the time, and everybody says that a person with a simple degree However great the course may have been, is of no use if the industry does not feel it is relevant for them to absorb that particular thing. So the government must really focus actually on bridging this gap between the educators and the industry, because we're talking about placing children and not just educating children, and for them to be PhDs but still not being able to get a job. That is something which is absolutely upon the government to really work on. So we are producing people with really high quality of education, but they are of no use to the industry, and that really isn't something that how it should be. So whether it is in terms of arranging fellowships and internships, captive employment in which students work on certain projects with the industry and then finally get absorbed within the industry. Definitely promoting innovation in terms of having a very vibrant setup for innovation missions, startups, startup sort of enterprises within every single state. So these are some of the things, and of course, making the people who've made it, the successful entrepreneurs, with budding entrepreneurs to give them motivation. So these are things that the government really must look at, and that's about it. That's what I wanted to share. Thanks.
Thanks a lot, Amrit Singh, IAS Director, Higher Education as well as Skill and Employment Generation, Government of Punjab. And as you have rightly said, that until unless, I think two important parts you have touched. One is that reaching the unreached, the last mile delivery. So again, government and industry has to come together to take technological advancement to those part. Until unless it reaches that part, whatever we discuss, it won't be of any use. And as also you have given example of how skilling is important and how government can actually play the role of facilitator between academia and industry to make that effective skill ecosystem. You have rightly said that maybe we are having a lot of degrees and everything, but end of the day, it's of no use if industry thinks that whatever degree you are having or diploma you are having, it's of no use because you're not employable. And that's one of the biggest problems of the country. And I think NEP is also focusing on skilling and upskilling. Thank you so much. I know you have to leave. You have to flight to catch. So I request Sangamitra Mohanty, one of the co-founders of APAC News Network, to come on stage and hand over a small token of appreciation to Amrit Singh ma'am. And also a huge round of applause for her. She has come all the way from Punjab to attend this conference. She was supposed to be the part of the next panel as well, but I think she has urgent meeting. She has to leave early. Yes.